said many times in the conversation that there's 4 boxes that keep us a free country. The jury box, the soap box, the ballot box, and the cartridge box. Any one of those gone, we're no longer the nation that we
That's
are.
a good point. I agree.
Okay.
And it's fundamental. I respect, you talk about guns, I respect a person's right not to own one. And I will defend your right not to own one.
If you're a constitutionalist, you'd have to.
Because, you have cities, I think one in Georgia, that says it's a law that everybody own a firearm. Well, I think that law is unconstitutional. In a sense, I like the idea, don't get me wrong, but I think it's unconstitutional. And I, as a sheriff, would not enforce that because, we got some people in this community, some Mennonite, I have some Mennonite friends, some very dear people, Amish, and so on. They don't want a gun in their house. You know what? That's not what I would choose, but quite frankly, that's their right. And I will defend that right. Now, as we know, the police can't protect everybody. And when they call 911 or they get to a phone and try to get a hold of us, we'll be there to clean up the mess. Typically, the war will be over. And that's why I am a sheriff, I'm a law enforcement officer, and I have been for many years, always supported citizens' rights to carry. And they need to be able to access a firearm and defend themselves. And the more firearms out there from a law enforcement perspective, the more firearms out there in legal hands, in other words, in responsible, law-abiding citizens' hands, the better, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay. Well, then that's I'll give me a run of the next one. Then that goes right into it.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, us being the Michigan Shooting News, of course, we're pro Second Amendment, obviously. You've talked about a lot of your views in the Second Amendment, so we can kind of skip that because you've explained it thoroughly. But the question to this is, how many of your officers, let's just say a percentage, are pro Second Amendment? Do you have some that aren't?
Well, I don't quiz them individually, but I would say probably at least 90-95% of them are pro Second Amendment.
Okay.
And just because of things I hear and the way that I see laws enforced and attitudes towards guns and things like that. You have national surveys out there with law enforcement officers, and you typically when you get a bunch of chiefs of police, they're always talking about gun control. But if you get down to the line staff, if you get down to the people who are beating the pavement out there and dealing with these bad guys with guns and good guys with guns, they're going to say, gun control doesn't work. We need to have an armed citizenry.
Okay. Now, do you want to go with something?
I want to know. When we did the Women on Target, we interviewed Officer Casey Hoff, and she said in her interview that she feels that programs like Women on Target is very important because it introduces women who would normally have access to a firearm, introduces them to it, and her quote was that she feels that everyone should have access to a firearm because a restraining order is nothing but a piece of paper. A piece of paper is going to protect someone from breaking into your house.
That's exactly right.
And
it's on the honor system. I'm very supportive of civilian training of firearms, people for firearms, because 200 years ago, everybody had one. It was sitting in the corner of their house, in the living room. Kids were around it all the time. We don't have that, always that culture in every household here today. And so, President Obama done a great service for the gun industry, and we've had more sales now in the last couple of years, which has created the ammunition shortage and other types of things. But not everybody that has bought those guns knows how to use them. And so I've always encouraged people to get civilian training on the use of it. Not only the laws, the ramifications of using, because this is serious stuff. This isn't playtime. It is serious stuff. There's people, I'd say a lot of guys are carrying, and they're going to pull their gun, possibly inappropriately, at a bad time, and they could be in a boatload of trouble if they do the wrong things. Now that said, it's still their right, but they also should have a responsibility to get some training, to be familiar with it, and to know when and when not to use it. Sometimes, I mean, even as a law enforcement officer, I play the what if games in different places. And, I'm in the line at Walmart, and all of a sudden some guy comes in and starts robbing the place. I'm not necessarily going to pull my gun and start, hold him down. It may be that if the bullets aren't flying, it's just best for me, because of the crowd, to be a good witness and just be there ready if something does happen. But obviously, you get an active shooter, you get somebody coming in, and people are dying. That's where people need to unholster and help their fellow man. So, and others are, we know that there are sheepdogs out there, and we are sheepdogs, and there are sheep, and there's always going to be sheep out there that it doesn't. It's not wrong to be a sheep, but there's people out there that will always be sheep, and they're going to go with the herd. They're going to panic when something happens, and they're going to stampede, and they're not going to confront the evil that is before them. And we sheepdogs know that, and we know that we're here to protect as well. So.
Okay. I'm gonna hold my question for something ahead of the schedule here. So you want to ask it in the next one? This is the one I'm waiting to hear.
Okay. What are your views on the UN Firearms Treaty?
Well, that is something that is totally unconstitutional. It is acquiescing our constitutional right to some, in a sense, foreign entity, and it's essentially treasonous to do that very thing. I said it at the Second Amendment rally in South Bend, and there are ways to change your Constitution. They built that into place. There's ways to doing that. You don't like it? That's the way to do it. That's extremely difficult to do that, but there is a way.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot, whether it's through a treaty or through legislation, you cannot legislate the Second Amendment away. That is not what they're out of their league, they're out of their scope, and they're out of the Constitution. If they start legislating away, then I can say as a sheriff, I'm not going to enforce that law.
Okay. Well, that segues me to a question that was just short of this interview taking place. Somebody wanted me to ask you this. Critics of your positions have said to us, and I've heard this through other certain circles, that if Congress passes said law, a gun registration, universal background checks, whatever, and you are against these things because they are unconstitutional, as you stated, people say that's wrong because you as a sheriff should enforce the laws that the federal government passes, and in their mind that's all there is to it. And you should, if you don't enforce those laws, you should lose your job. What is your response to that?
They know not what they ask, because they don't realize that what they're asking could actually put them in jeopardy someday. Whether it's, okay, Sheriff, arrest everybody who has a tattoo. You mean that's their crime? Yes, they got a tattoo, they go to jail. Well, that's ridiculous. You go arrest them. You're the one that created the law, Mr. Legislator. You go arrest them. You see, this is the beauty of the balance of powers in our government, is that there's legislative branch, a judicial branch, and executive branch. I'm part of the executive branch. If a judge says, go out and arrest everybody with tattoos, Judge, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna do that. You can go arrest him. Well, I can't do that. I need the executive branch to do it. Exactly. We have that checks and balances. Legislature says, go arrest everybody with tattoos. No, I'm not gonna do it. There may be some officers that do it in some places, but my staff won't do it because I have control of them, and I could even intervene in municipalities, say, no, we're not doing this. The prosecutor then could say, no, I'm not prosecuting that. You arrest him, we're dismissing it. It's unconstitutional. You see, so everybody, I've been accused of being a judge, and listen, hey, look, we all are judges. Even the media person I talked to said, yeah, I'm going to be a judge and say, that's unconstitutional. I'm going to write the thing anyways if they tell me that it's against the law to write something. So you see, all those things depend on everybody else carrying their duties out. Now, if they can somehow create a law that keeps guns out of bad people's hands without jeopardizing the legal ownership of it, I might entertain that. I don't think there's a way to do that. So, because we're always going to have bad people that can access either through theft, illegally, and I mean, we have the President of the United States. He's going to give arms to Syria. Who are they giving arms to? They're probably some type of extreme radicals or people who want to overthrow their government. Are we doing background checks on those people? Are we putting safety nets in place? I dare say not. We've got scandals of Fast and Furious shipping guns to Mexico. Did we do background checks on that and try to legislate them to have limitations? No. And what they did was wrong, and I'll tell you what, I will not kowtow to federal or executive mandate that this office enforce unconstitutional gun laws.
If we were to invite you and your officers to a local shooting competition match at our ranges we go to things, if your schedule allowed, would you be willing to attend? If so, would you feel this would be a good way to bring law-abiding gun owners and law enforcement closer together?
Yeah, I'd say we'd be open to that. Police officers in general, I'm not so much that way, but police officers in general are a bit suspicious when there's acts of appreciation and gratitude from the community, and it's like, well, what do you expect in return? That kind of thing. But that's some of the cynical nature, I think, of law enforcement when they're dealing with bad guys all the time. But obviously it's something we could make arrangements and especially if you're furnishing the ammo. But we could make arrangements and facilitate that. And of course you can never get 100% compliance or attendance because it's a 24/7 operation.
Right.
We've got always people working at something.
Right. Well, it's the reason we brought this question up is because our mission, you've seen our tagline, is save our gun culture.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the gun culture is me, you, and him. You as a law enforcement officer, you have in the minds of the general people, like you said, you're a normal man, you put your pants on the same way we do. But in the mind of the general public, you have a status that some people regard as higher than the average citizen, which, as you stated, is incorrect. You are here as a servant of citizens.
I serve the people.
And the thing we're trying to do is we're trying to bridge those gaps. For example, when we go to these fun matches, we hold our clubs, I would like to see police officers there with us shooting in these events because they're all for fun. There's no money in it. It's to support. It supports the gun culture. And I think if we think, as us, this is why we do this, if we could bridge that gap and say, look, a lot of things, a lot of gun owners, you hear the stigmata, you go to the range or wherever, you hear the cops roll any gun, they want to take my guns away. I'm sure you've heard that. We know it's not true, especially in our research. We know that's not the case. Now we know that. But, it would be a great thing if at one of our events, one of your officers was there, not even necessarily you. Hey, we had two officers from the Elkhart County Police show up today. They went to try out the 22 steel plate match. They came out, they had a lot of fun, talked to us on camera, talked about how it was a good thing. We think that would be positive for the gun culture. And we'd like to get everybody, from your office, from South Bend, from Central County. I mean, it's not just you guys. I want to get everybody involved in it, and so you support that.
I would be open to it. I mean, we'd have to, again, look at the details and our individual officers, at least at the line level, are going to be reticent to speak on camera about stuff because they're afraid that, I'm an elected official and they don't want to speak out of turn, and they don't want to, and we have policies about release of information and things like that. And if it's about their personal experience,
Right.
about something, it's not.
Yeah, if they came here and said, you know what, we came and tried the match today. Wow, it's a really good thing. Everybody should
Yeah.
do this on the weekend. Just real simple stuff like that.
But if you get into policy and
That's what we're talking to you today.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you are the executive.
that's what
for
has
that.
to happen. Is you got to deal with me on the policy issues.
Okay.
With, you said if we supply the ammo, we are actually running a match on October 12th. All we're telling everyone that to show up is to bring a handgun and 10 rounds of ammunition. Everything else is going to be provided by us. There's going to be 4 courses of fire. The only one that what's going to be is the first one where you use your handgun and your 10 rounds of ammo. If you would like to show up to that, if you could, we'd love to have you out there. But
Well, you just keep me posted on those details, and I can spread the word throughout our ranks. And again, I don't know how many will have takers, but again, as we develop relationships with the community and so on, then those are things that'll form over time. So.
Okay, well, we'll wrap this. I think it's called.
okay.
Go ahead. All right, well, we would like to thank you for the job you have done while in office and as a constitutionalist. Let's let the sheriff thing aside for a minute. Just say thank you for being an American that stands up for the Constitution, with the Bill of Rights, for liberty. Because we don't run into them all the time, and it very much aggravates us to not see people like that. Anything you want to wrap up with?
Well, it's just that you guys can be helpful in the cause of liberty by holding people accountable, including myself, because I'm sure we're not doing everything perfectly. And so, as things come to light, we make adjustments, we change policy, we do what we can to conform to that constitutional view. But it's not just the elected officials. Elected officials are accountable to someone. It's we the people. And many people are flippant about getting involved in politics. I get that. It's tough to be in the limelight. It's tough to be a public servant today. But it's if we are wanting our kids, our family, and us to continue in the holy cause of liberty, if you will, then that is something that we just need to be educated and aware and hold people accountable. We don't teach the Constitution today. It's a rare thing, and so you've got people homeschooling and things that so they can, and we're in crisis right now, and we need to do what we can. I only have 2 terms, then I'm out. Some people said, well, what are you going to do after you're sheriff? You're going to run for a higher office? And I say, is there a higher office than sheriff? So I don't know. We'll see how the Lord leads. I have no aspirations currently, but because this is all I've done. I've been a law enforcement officer. So we'll see what happens.
Okay.
I can't really tell you.
Anything you want to throw in there? We did. Well, let's say thank you, Sheriff Ray Roger. We appreciate it. And thank you for watching the first installment of Michigan Shooting News' roundtable discussions today.